his failings. There was something mysteriously sympathetic about his nature. He didn't stand with the bullies, even as he asserted power, and he understood weakness. That living tension between power and powerlessness, a great theme also in modern Western history, would help Bacon become one of the few artists able to take the measure, glancingly, of a dark century. He was born in the first and died in the last decade of the century. His sporty parents were part of Anglo-Irish society, then oriented around the great estates outside Dublin, and spent much of their time thinking about horses and hunting. Their second son, Francis, suffered from severe asthma. He was an indoor child, allergic to animals, who couldn't ride, fox hunt, shoot, or do much of anything. He spent less than 2 years at a public school. He didn't formally study art, and he was paralyzingly shy. Since he was not much of a boy, he was not considered very useful, except for talking to girls. As late as 1941, when he was in his early 30s, a woman recalled Bacon as a rather sallow and podgy observer looking on from the outside. His older partner at the time, a strong man of the world, made him appear by contrast shambly. The dramatic art of Bacon's life, which made the art possible, was the creation of Francis Bacon, the commanding figure and great original who always knew that he was the most interesting man in the room. It mattered, of course, that he was homosexual. Early on he mastered the arts of concealment and display. But no one could have predicted the careless abandon with which he stepped forward in the dreary grey of post-war London. The painter Lucien Freud, who was standing beside Bacon when he booed Princess Margaret, called him the most fearless man he'd ever met. Bacon would even let others see the way sexual power and submission played across his body, not bothering to cover the bruises that darkly bloomed on his face and body when rough sex overwhelmed constraint. Wit and laughter, like sex, could elicit truth. So could needling, which might touch off a row that released buried feelings. Wine was a magic elixir, leading to exposures that could be disturbing and amusing. Bacon would have agreed with Winston Churchill that he took from the bottle more than the bottle took from him. Not surprisingly, he understood the power of appearances, unmasking others while usually keeping his own looks in order. In the 1950s, Cecil Beaton wrote, "He appeared extraordinarily healthy and cherubic, with apple-shiny cheeks, and the protruding lips were lubricated with an unusual amount of saliva. His hair was bleached by sun and other aids. His figure was incredibly lithe for a person of his age and occupation, wonderfully muscular and solid. I was impressed with his principal boy legs, tightly encased in black jeans and high boots, not a pound of extra flesh anywhere." Bacon focused on others with unfamiliar intensity, his eyes staring out from a pale and, as he aged, raggedly round moon face. "It was like looking into a light even if you'd only just met," said one acquaintance. "He could make you feel as if you were the most important person in the world, and then if the light went off, you were hardly there." He was not a giggly or simpering queen. One friend found him sexually ambiguous, a queen with masculine authority. His appetite for life was obvious. He moved on the balls of his feet, always precisely, as if there were some fine edge to negotiate, and he could appear pleasingly Mephistophelian. The devil, as Chesterton said, was a gentleman, with white skin, reddish-brown hair, and a trim black leather jacket. He would take your final bet and join you in the consequences. It was often necessary to say what should not be said. Bacon reserved for friends or special occasions his free-form queening, when his voice would rise to a high fluty register, every he became a she, and no saint escaped delirious violation. About late Matisse, "There she was, dear, shitting through her stomach, dear, cutting out these miraculous pieces of blue tissue paper, dear." Speaking freely led to outsized opinions, heightened by rage at the closeted present. Sometimes Bacon played the part of a 20th century prophet, but one who railed against religion. Like any prophet, he was rarely accused of moderation or tolerance. He would emerge from his legendarily messy studio cave to castigate the comfortable, mortify the flesh, demand a return to first principles. Of what possible interest was an abstract painting or a pleasing landscape to a prophet during the Dark Age foretold by Nietzsche? There was no necessary reason, of course, to heed Bacon. Prophets easily become disagreeable. W. H. Auden, 5 years older than Bacon, was equally alarmed by the state of the 20th century, and, like Bacon, was a homosexual who cherished the past. In Auden's view, however, death was not always to be feared. Solace might be